From KGW News, this is Straight Talk with Laurel Porter.
Hello and welcome to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. Ballots have been mailed out ahead of the November 3rd election. And one of the most important decisions Oregonians will make is who will be the next Secretary of State. In this episode of Straight Talk, we meet the candidates and find out how each would approach the second most powerful elected office in the state.
Who will be the next Oregon Secretary of State? The two candidates are both state senators. Democrat Shemia Fagan, an employment law attorney, represents Southeast Portland, Happy Valley, Milwaukee, and North Clackamas. And Republican Kim Thatcher, a small business owner from Keizer, represents parts of Clackamas, Marion, Yamhill, and Washington counties. This is an open seat. Republican Bev Clarno currently holds the position. Governor Brown appointed her after the death of Republican Secretary of State Dennis Richardson, who died from cancer in 2019. Clarno is not seeking election. And the stakes in the race are high. Not only is the Secretary of State the top elections official, the head of the audit division, and overseer of campaign finance laws, but she would also hold the number 2 post, right behind Governor Brown. With the possibility, if Joe Biden is elected president, he could potentially tap Kate Brown for a spot in his administration, leaving the governorship to whoever wins this race. In addition, the legislature will soon be charged with redistricting after the 2020 census. If lawmakers fail to redraw legislative boundaries, that duty would fall to the Secretary of State. All reasons this has been called arguably the most important statewide race in Oregon, with a lot on the line.
Welcome to my guests, the two candidates hoping to convince you they're the best choice for the job, Democratic nominee State Senator Shemia Fagan and Republican nominee State Senator Kim Thatcher. Welcome to Straight Talk. It's nice to have you both here.
Good to see you, Laurel.
Thank you.
First, take about a minute and tell voters why you're the best pick for the number 2 spot in the state of Oregon, Secretary of State. And I'm not going to run an official clock, but if you go much over a minute, I'm going to jump in because we'll try to get to a lot of topics. So let's begin with Senator Fagan.
Well, good evening. I'm Shemia Fagan, and I actually grew up in Wasco County. My dad was a staunch Republican and a single parent, raising 3 kids by himself in the Dalles and Dufur, while our mom battled addiction and homelessness for most of my life. The summer before I started 2nd grade, Laurel, my dad took us on a long camping trip. I remember a couple of weeks in the woods, catching crawdads, sleeping in a big family tent. And years later, my brothers told us that we had been evicted from our house in the Dalles and we had nowhere to go. That's why I've spent my career as a lawmaker and a civil rights attorney, fighting for families who are hanging on by a thread like mine was, passing policies like paid sick leave, creating the Office of Small Business Assistance in the Secretary of State's office, and most importantly for this race, knocking down barriers to voting from automatic voter registration to prepaid postage. What I'll bring to the Secretary of State's office is a strong track record of fighting to make government work best for everyday Oregonians.
Senator Fagan, thank you. Senator Thatcher.
Hi, it's nice to be seeing everyone. 4 years ago, voters did choose Dennis Richardson to be their next Secretary of State, and voters realized they needed checks and balances and somebody who would treat the office in a nonpartisan way. If he were alive today, I have no doubt he'd be sailing on to an easy re-election. But right now, I'm the only person who would carry on Dennis Richardson's legacy of accountability, transparency, and integrity. I've built a 16-year track record of steady leadership. I focused on all those things, good government. Both my colleague, opponent, and I served with Dennis Richardson, but I received the endorsement from Dennis Richardson's wife, Kathy. I have the experience, and I'm most qualified. I've been longest serving member of the Joint Legislative Audits Committee. I've first senator to be on the Public Records Advisory Council. I've served on elections committees, the businesses, and more. And I am a business owner, 28 years long, and I've used that experience to help small businesses. In 2011, 2 years before my opponent got there, I brought forward the business advocate to be placed in government, and then my opponent joined me in supporting that in 2013. It was put into the Secretary of State's race. But if
Senator
you like the
Thatcher.
path he's on, I think I'm the candidate.
Thank you. The number one job for the Secretary of State is to impartially serve as the chief elections official in the state. So let's start there. There's been a lot said about vote by mail this election. Oregon's vote by mail system has worked well for more than 20 years. Do you have any concerns that every vote will be counted in Oregon in this election? Senator Thatcher?
I have no concerns that every vote will be counted in this election. I don't think that that's been an issue. I do want to make sure that we do check our election system from top to bottom to ensure that we don't have any problems from the point of registering to vote and all the way through every other step to looking at the way systems interact with one another and making sure that we are actually getting every vote counted and doing things in the most secure possible way, ensuring that we're prepared to respond to emergencies. And just like in this wildfire, I think we need to make sure that we are, make sure that we get information out to folks on how they can obtain a ballot and get to the county clerk's office and get any county clerk's office and get their ballot as if they were voting from home. So I don't believe that there's going to be any problem with counting all the votes this election.
Senator Fagan.
I certainly don't have any concerns about every vote being counted here in Oregon, but I would actually think the Secretary of State needs to go further, not only making it easier and secure for those ballots to be counted, but how about we actually make it easier for folks to register to vote and cast those ballots? And this actually is a place where my colleague Senator Thatcher and I disagree. I don't believe that expanding access to voting rights should be a partisan issue. That's why I was proud to help lead the fight to make Oregon the first state in the nation to pass automatic voter registration back in 2015. Sadly, Senator Thatcher voted with her party to vote against that here in Oregon. But the good news is we now have over a dozen states that have passed automatic voter registration across the country, including Republican legislatures and Republican governors signing that into law. And I was proud to lead that fight here in Oregon.
NBC News reported last week how the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is pulling out all the stops to monitor any potential cyber attacks and thwart any foreign interference in the election. They say those cyber attacks are happening every day, all the time. And they're also working with state and local governments on this. Are you confident Oregon's election system is secure and prepared to prevent a cyber attack? And is there more you want to do as Secretary of State in this area and to prevent the spread of disinformation? We'll begin with Senator Fagan on this one.
One of the strongest features of our vote by mail system is that we use paper ballots. We have a paper trail for every ballot. We don't actually attach our vote counting machines to the internet, so they're not susceptible to cyber attacks. We have forensic signature verification, and we use a unique barcode tracking system for every ballot. And so I'm not concerned about cyber attacks this election, but one thing we need to do better here in Oregon is protecting our online voter registration system. A recent review of that was done, and while we're meeting the federal requirements for cybersecurity, I would argue in Oregon we need to go beyond that, because that is central to who gets a ballot in the mail here in Oregon. And you mentioned disinformation, Laurel, and I think that's incredibly important. That's our number one security threat right now, is misinformation about our elections. And I propose to use the Director of Civic Education, already in the Secretary of State's office, to actually help Oregonians spot misinformation and to counter that information, whether it's on public health or elections or any other matter of public interest.
Senator Thatcher?
Well, from the beginning of my campaign, I've been saying that the Secretary of State needs to audit our government's responses to COVID, wildfires, cyber attacks, anything that could be coming at us, because I don't think that the emergencies that we've seen this year are going to be the end of it. We need to make sure that Oregon is on guard and prepared to respond to at different levels of government, and with especially in protecting our democracy and guarding against any of that. We will be probably upgrading the Oregon centralized voter registration system to guard against these attacks, making sure that we protect all that. But misinformation is huge, and I think right now lack of information is also huge. If elections officials have been more informative with the people who have been displaced by wildfires, I think a lot more of them would be turning in their ballots right now. They need to know to get to the county clerks, get a ballot, and all that stuff that I talked about earlier. But I'm concerned about my opponent's plans for dealing with their civic education, whatever it is, dealing with misinformation. I don't believe it's correct or appropriate for a government official, or including the Secretary of State, to be policing and shutting down people's First Amendment rights and free speech, looking for things to close down on social media, and whether we like it or not. We just need to be a source of authoritative information and make sure that we get it out.
Senator Thatcher, thank you. We're trying to reestablish Shemia Fagan's shot. We just lost for a second, so I'm going to read a newspaper editorial and then hope that we get her back while I'm reading this. Let's look at some concerns some newspaper editorial boards had in endorsing each of you. First, the News Register McMinnville in Yamhill County endorsed Senator Thatcher. However, the paper's editorial board said it found both of you a bit too partisan and Senator Thatcher's positions on gun control and immigration a bit too extreme. But in the end, I'm welcome back, Senator Fagan. We're talking about a newspaper editorial from McMinnville for Senator Thatcher. And here's part of the reason why it said it endorsed her. When it comes to Fagan, her lack of experience in high office is compounded by her record of staunch partisanship and unswerving allegiance to the state's powerful public employee unions. There's a reason she raised more than $1.5 million in 3 legislative runs, compared to $800,000 for Thatcher in 7 legislative attempts. Union backing. That's also how she was able to raise $765,000, more than double her 2 opponents combined in winning the Democratic Secretary of State nomination. We are wary of someone that beholden to a single special interest, particularly one with the outsized muscle of Oregon's public employee unions. Senator Fagan, most of your campaign money in the primary and general election has come from unions. How can voters have confidence that you will be impartial in carrying out your duties as Secretary of State when your campaign relied so heavily on union support?
Well, I'm proud to be supported by a very broad coalition in this race, including Oregon's working people, which is actually a very multi-partisan commission. If you look at the firefighters who've supported me, the carpenters who supported me, the building trades, Oregon nurses, these are not strictly Democrats. Many of them are Republicans. And so I'm very proud to have always had the support of Oregon's working people, because I've adhered to some principles. I believe people should be paid a living wage for the work they do. I believe they should have health insurance. I believe they should have retirement security and time off when they or a loved one are sick. But what you're really asking me, Laurel, is would I be independent? And I have been the lone no vote in my party on multiple occasions. In fact, I'm in the Senate because I ran against an incumbent Democrat who was a member of Senate leadership. And I worked with Republicans to pass the National Popular Vote Compact over the objection of the 3 most powerful Democrats in the Senate. In fact, when the Bend Bulletin endorsed me this week, they said, quote, Fagan has shown a willingness to buck her party's establishment and do what she believed was right.
Senator Fagan, thank you. Now to the Oregonians' endorsement of Senator Fagan. The Oregonians' editorial board also expressed reservations about both candidates, saying you both bring highly partisan records to the job. However, it gave the nod to Senator Fagan, saying her record is more in line with broad voter access principles. It said about you, Senator Thatcher, her participation in 3 Senate walkouts over the past 2 years also calls into question how she would use her authority when partisan interests are at risk. And she continues to underplay a 2010 court case in which a Marion County Circuit judge sanctioned the construction company she owns for willfully disobeying orders to produce documents and data in a lawsuit. Let's begin with the Republican walkouts during the legislative session. Senator Thatcher, in addition, you were a delegate from Oregon at the Republican National Convention in 2016 and cast your ballot for President Trump. How can Oregonians be sure when Republican interests are at stake, you won't be biased in how you conduct your duties?
I'm not sure which question to answer here. You've asked me a compound, several series of questions.
The first one is about
so which one would you like me to start with?
Well, let's start with the how you would be sure not to be biased towards Republican interest in conducting your duties as Secretary of State.
Okay, so you're referring to the walkout. The walkout and denial of quorum is part of the process. The Senate Democrats nationally are considering a walkout on considering a judge, I think. I mean, it's just part of the process is what we do. But it's sometimes it's just kind of the nuclear option. And when it came to that in the Senate, there was just some really big issues that people were being blocked from weighing in on, and I mean the voters of Oregon. And sometimes there are questions that are bigger than the legislature, and that is what was being blocked. And so there's that. When it comes to the Secretary of State's office, that ought to be nonpartisan. When we're looking at Senate and legislative duties, there's things that often come down to being partisan, not simply because that's the way, it's kind of the way the system is. It's kind of a tug of war.
Let's talk about
when it comes
the court case. The paper refers to in Marion County, where the judge sanctioned your construction company for willfully disobeying court orders. Is something viewers have heard about in TV ads from both of you. Can you explain what happened?
Well, just quickly, ODOT was the defendant. Yeah, there was a civil case that my company had against ODOT. There was a dispute over a contract and how they're paying. And it's been implied that there was criminality, but there was not. It was a civil case. ODOT was the defendant. The judge who did not hear the case had made some ugly statements. The sanctions that they're referring to were because we had dropped the case. We ended up having to pay their costs of defense. And I used that experience to bring to bear, to make it better for small businesses, to bring to bear a business ombudsman. That's what I passed in the session after all this court case happened. And that's where it's at. We're still doing business with ODOT.
Let me go on to another topic. Perhaps the biggest challenge facing the state of Oregon is the economy and a budget that's hurting from the pandemic and the resulting economic fallout. Plus, many Oregon communities, you referred to this already, were devastated by wildfires. What can you do as Secretary of State to help the state's economy and Oregon businesses during what's likely to be rough times ahead? We'll start with Senator Thatcher this time.
Absolutely. I want to make this, okay, so we have the audits division. I want to make the audits division and the good people who work there available to help inform budget decisions if the legislature would want that. But we can also look into the responses and take on these challenges that we're being, some of the biggest challenges that are facing Oregon right now. We've got kids home from school, an endless parade of government edicts, and we've got all kinds of things happening that need to be looked into. I mean, kids aren't even in school. They're not on the internet. I mean, a lot of kids can't get on the internet. So our kids are getting left behind. And, I haven't taken money from the education unions like my opponent. They're the ones that don't want you to know how our schools are failing. But looking at our budget issues, school's a big part of it. Where is our $9 billion going? Where is that, how is it, are kids succeeding? We need to look into all kinds of things. We've had so many budget fiascos over the years, and it's we've got to look into them. We've had Cover Oregon that needed to be exposed.
Senator Fagan, time's up. And thank you, Senator
Bridge
Fagan.
To nowhere is a whole long list.
Senator Fagan, you want to answer that question about the economy? How can you help?
Absolutely. Yeah, the very first bill that I ever chief co-sponsored my freshman year in the legislature actually created the Office of Small Business Assistance in the Secretary of State's office. And that is an office that has grown and has really received international acclaim for essentially being a one-stop shop for Oregon small businesses, which are the engine of our economy, to reach out to get help with a government agency, with a non-government issue, anything. And I'm going to make sure as Secretary of State that office is fully staffed as we work to help Oregon families get back on track, get our small businesses back up. But Laurel, the bottom line is we're hearing from experts that we're not going to get our economy back on track until we get this pandemic under control. And that's why I've been unequivocal that I am supporting Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, because we need a president and we need administration that takes this pandemic seriously. We can't have our economy back when we still have schools closed. As a mom who's homeschooling my second grader via virtual school, I'm lucky that I have a job running for office and being a state senator and being a civil rights attorney that I could do from home. But that's not an option for so many families having to choose between going to work or helping their kids.
Senators, thank you. When we come back, Senators Thatcher and Fagan ask each other a question. We're back in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Straight Talk. I'm Laurel Porter. We're talking to the two candidates for Oregon's Secretary of State, Republican nominee State Senator Kim Thatcher of Keizer, and Democratic nominee State Senator Shemia Fagan of Happy Valley. Once again, welcome to Straight Talk. I think everybody at home has seen your competing ads on television, but now I want to give you the chance face-to-face to ask each other a question, and we'll begin with a question from Senator Thatcher for Senator Fagan.
All right. We've seen you run for office for political gain, bouncing from one race to another, one job to another, next looking for the next higher job, not quite finishing before you're running for the next higher office. What do you say about using the office for personal gain? As a state representative, you tried to get out what amounts to a reckless driving ticket, claiming a legislative immunity, and you made the police officer have to drive from Salem to Portland a month after the session to come ticket you. And you still got off two of the three charges. If you were anyone else,
I think everybody at home
especially if you're anyone in the black community where we are hearing so much about over-policing, you would not have been let off so easy. Why is it okay to use your office like that for personal gain?
I have never used my office for personal gain. This is a silly repeat of a 2014 attack against me. I did get a speeding ticket on my way to Salem one morning, and I told the officer I was late for a committee, and she said, "Oh, we actually have a policy at the Oregon State Police of not ticketing legislators when they're on their way to session." She gave me her business card and said, "Please contact me when session ends." Do you know what I did as soon as session ended? I emailed that officer to say, "Session's over. Please come give me my speeding ticket." She gave me the ticket, and I paid the entire ticket in full. So,
especially if you're anyone in the black community where
we
are hearing so much about over-policing, you would not have been let off so easy. Why is it okay to use your office like that for personal
speeding
gain?
ticket I paid in full, not the $63,000 sanction that your company paid to the state. This is a silly repeat of a 2014 attack against me. I did get a speeding ticket on my way to Salem one morning, dodging the question of whether the officer I was late for a committee, and she said, we actually have a policy people living in the U.S. without documentation from the census legislators when they're on their way to session. She gave me her business card and said, "Please contact me when session ends." And who you know what I did as soon as session ended? Despite emailed that identifying it as Oregon's largest anti-immigrant my speeding ticket. So my question is, as someone running for a position that may be in charge of redistricting, this is a silly census result. Senator Thatcher, do you agree with Trump that undocumented people should be excluded from the census? You're talking about a $260
I think all people living in the United States should be counted, but I do think it should be indicated whether they are citizens or not. I think that's important because I think people who are citizens should be voting. And
Kim, you keep dodging the question of whether you're supporting Trump again.
The United States
the president has made it clear that he intends to exclude people living in the U.S. without documentation from the census count.
People, I don't have any problem with counting people.
For immigration
now,
reform,
you kind of like to put words in my mouth as far as all that, but yes, I was chosen by my
largest anti-immigrant hate
fellow
group.
Republicans
so my question is,
to go
as someone
to
running for a position that may be in charge of redistricting off of the census results,
not an
do you
elector,
agree
but
with
a
Trump
faithful
that
delegate
undocumented people
to
should be excluded from the census?
Support the nominee who was living in the United States should be nominee, because there was I do think it should be indicated with whether they are citizens or not. I think I was just trying to fulfill the wishes of the Republican Party should be voting and doing, and people who are not members of the United States or parroting any lies from the other side should not be voting. But as far as counting people, I don't have any problem with counting people. Now, you kind of like to put words in my mouth as far as all that. But yes, I was chosen by my
this fall between a
fellow Republicans
to
go
to and one who leads the fight to expand
and be a
I'm proud
faithful,
to be the only candidate
not
in this
an elector,
race
but a faithful delegate
that you have trusted for decades, the Oregon League of
support
Conservation Voters,
the nominee
who
was
the
the Republican nominee,
because
there were some talks of somebody trying to get in the system there. So I was just trying to fulfill the wishes of the Republican Party, and that's all I was doing.
Senator Thatcher, 30 seconds.
Putting my words in my mouth about trumpeting
jump in here now.
or
am the
parroting
candidate
any
who will
lies
follow
from the other
legacy
side
of
is kind of
Secretary of State.
I want to jump in here because I do want to give you
Secretary of
30
State Dennis
seconds each
Richardson.
to
I am
make a
not
final
beholden to
pitch to
the
voters. We'll start
$50,000
with
that the
Shemia
governor
Fagan.
gave me. I'm not beholden to
Well,
big
elections are about
government
choices,
interests,
and I
but
think
I
that
am
you need
proud
to have
that
a clear choice this
99% of
fall
my donations
between a
have come
candidate
from
who
inside
votes
of
with her
Oregon.
party to restrict voting
And I
access,
am the candidate
and
in
one
this
who
race
leads
who
the
has a
fight to
coalition of
expand
people
it.
from
I'm
left,
proud
right,
to be
and
the
the
only candidate
middle
in this
who
race
are ready for
endorsed by
change,
the people
unlike
who
my
have trusted
opponent.
for decades
Not
the Oregon League of
beholden,
Thank you
and if
Conservation
you want to
much
get back on
Senators
track,
Wyden and
for
Merkley,
joining
the
us. Here are
firefighters
the
and
websites if
teachers
you want
and
to check out
nurses,
more
but
information,
I'm not done until I can
KimThatcher.com
add you.
and
I'm Shemia Fagan, and I will be
ShemiaForOregon.com.
honored to earn your vote
Thank you
this
for watching.
November
We'll see you
or
next week
October,
for Straight
whenever
Talk.
your family sits down to vote safely from home here in Oregon.
Senator Thatcher, 30 seconds.
Well, I am the candidate who will follow the legacy of Secretary of State Dennis Richardson. I am not beholden to the $50,000 that the governor gave me. I'm not beholden to big government interests, but I am proud that 99% of my donations have come from inside of Oregon. And I am the candidate in this race who has a coalition of people from left, right, and the middle who are ready for change. Unlike my
Senators.
opponent, I am not beholden.
Thank
and
you
if
so
you want to
much
get back on track,
for
then
joining
vote
us.
for me.
Here are the websites if you want to check out more information, KimThatcher.com and ShemiaForOregon.com. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next week for Straight Talk.